Good evening, guys. Thank you for joining me. And I wanted to close out the day. And though I'm not going to post this video until tomorrow, but I wanted to close out the day just acknowledging all the incredible efforts and all that we've accomplished in the last month of starting this channel with you guys, and the amount of changes that are happening faster than we can even process ourselves at the moment. As we know, today was a monumental day with Leah's lawsuit being filed so that we finally start holding these people accountable if they dare to come and do their little illegal shenanigans. And I'll tell you, from having worked at those hotels, guys, the thing that works the most for these people, the only way they ever learn is when there's consequences to what they do. As long as they don't get called out, as long as they think they can get away with it, no one's safe. So let's make sure we keep that fully in mind so that we're very aware on the type of corruption we are here to stamp out, right? And that's the perfect time that leads us to one of these comments that I got from one of our subscribers that I thought was so thoughtful and insightful. And like I told you guys, part of exposing and getting to the truth is being able to have pushback and being able to have conversations and being able to be open-minded about things, right? So I realized that coming here and expressing to you guys my firsthand experience of what I witnessed as an adult and a small body child inside those hotels, there can be questions that arise, and there can be certain points of feedback that are important to think about. So in the case of Nicole Kidman, I wanted to read you guys this comment because I really think it would be good to kind of like contextualize that for you all. And it's actually the perfect setup for the video that I'm going to be premiering tomorrow. So I might be moving that premiere to happen later, depending on when I put this video on. So here it is, you guys. I appreciate your bravery and advocacy in bringing to light the abuses of Scientology. I do believe that 20 years ago, child custody was different in the cult. It isn't easy today. Today, we hear of people who barely escaped the cult and many who are physically dragged back. Aaron mentioned the other day that the Aftermath Foundation does not help a non-Scientologist parent gain custody of their child out of the clutches of Scientology. I am sure that there are many reasons for that. One day, it would be monumental if there was a separate foundation devoted to helping these parents and children. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. On the one hand, I will say, just remember that Nicole was a full-blown Scientologist. She went up to OT3. The only mistake Nicole made, like so many parents and so many people that run into a problem in those hotels, is that she finally said no. And that's the reason that Tom Cruise sent these two thugs that are on his payroll, Captain David Miscavige and Deputy Inspector General for Scientology Hotel Ethics, Marty Rathbun, to get involved. So that in itself is being called out. And the fact that the kids at 6 and 9 were given to Marty Rathbun to have his way for however many months he was abusing those kids by intellectually abusing them, telling them about their mom is this and their mom is that, when that man who purported to be DIG ethics literally had not a shred of certificate or reason to be given or being granted access to minors. And the reason that I can say that with this much certainty is because I had the great disservice of being ethics interviewed by this disgusting pig. So I won't buy his shtick. I won't buy his pitch because I can read him very, very well. So I think it's important to understand that that is a context that Nicole was a Scientologist. She wasn't a no Scientologist. She was wanting to leave, and we're gonna get into more aspects of contextualizing that side because now it's the time to do that. Here we go. There wasn't YouTube exposure like there is today. Even today, mainstream media hardly touches on negative news about Scientology. Thank you very much. You could have made our point any better. I mean, if you look at every coverage that I've been pointing out, is how this corporate media has been sitting on the sidelines and botching the story over and over and over again. And they have completely trivialized the plight of minors, and they have completely failed to do any real digging, because they've actually given the likes of Marty Rathbun ample airtime for him to launder his image and to purport he's a whistleblower. But yet again, we push back on this media with zero critical thinking skills. They took all of Rathbun's statements in good faith, we guess, because otherwise, what in the hell are they doing accepting those statements? And perhaps they don't have the ability to push back or see through the facade. But you know what? The kids that went through that experience have the total and complete ability to see through that facade. And we don't have to wait for anyone in corporate media to tell us what that is. Here's another one. Claire, she continues, Claire Bear mentioned an incident of Tom Cruise's physical abuse recently. I don't believe Nicole had a chance in hell of gaining any type of custody over her children. Look at what happened to David Miscavige's wife, close to Tom's divorce from Nicole. So yes and no. Shelley Miscavige is a Sea Org member. Shelley Miscavige is a co-conspirator of David Miscavige, who has had access to unthinkable information of horrific, disgusting crimes they were all about perpetuating for themselves as an adult collective. All these executives, Shelley, Dave, Marty Rathbun, Angie Trent, all the people that worked at RTC were in laundering each other's things, endorsing each other's depravities. L. Ron Hubbard said to do it, guys, so let's just do it. So we're pushing back on that narrative, given that we saw how those women operated. We saw how they respected no boundaries, they didn't care, and they were willing to do whatever. It's a culture that works with zero critical thinking skills. So these women, including Shelley, that literally was, we're going to do a whole thing on Shelley, actually. Let's leave that there. But let's suffice it to say that I had my own run-ins with Shelley, so I can speak to my own experience with why I think that woman is yet another co-conspirator of David Miscavige, just like Marty Rathbun, just like Debbie Cook, just like Angie Blankenship, just like Pilar Saldarriaga, just like all of those women that were there doing the stuff, you guys, the abuse, the unthinkable abuse. They were the puppet masters internally inside the hotel. Never mind who's puppeteering them beyond David Miscavige. Well, we have a lot of corruption to uncover. So I don't even know if any lawyers went up against the cult 20 years ago. I'm not making excuses. I'm looking at the realities of that time period. So yeah, I mean, I understand that at the time there weren't that many. And had Nicole been a regular mom without resources and left in the street, like in the next videos that I'm going to be releasing, that you're going to see examples of families that were, also in Nicole's situation, also going through unthinkable parental alienation. I mean, again, Nicole is on the spotlight. Everything is public record. We have the receipts to show y'all. She's not being targeted. She's not being singled out. She is just literally someone that was at the top of this food chain as an end user, mind you. Some of them have been, so there's a lot of different buckets. So you really have to start understanding like what bucket is what, because people like Marty Rathbun, people like Debbie Cook, people that have been laundering their image want to generalize themselves like, oh, we were all just the same. We were all just there. And we just had a run-in with this other one and he's the one. And we were just having a jolly old time. So it's important to understand who sits where and doing what, receiving what the access is, what type of power dynamic imbalances are in place, because Nicole is different than another person. So 20 years ago, attorneys maybe could have taken a case if Nicole Kidman was going to be the one doing the case. But, when you really understand so much of the context of the level and degree of gaslighting that she had to withstand, and then you'll see, we're going to contextualize like the type of horrendous abuse that was perpetrated on her by Marty and Tom. I mean, there's context to why she wasn't able to figure out that part of her life, and she was put in a really horrendous, untenable position that we wouldn't wish on our worst enemy. So as much as the circumstances are horrific, and the problem is Nicole's not the only one that's going through those problems. I mean, we just literally saw today, you guys, another breaking news, another young couple that 14 years old is when this kid was recruited into the Sea Org, has been there for 10 years. So, the wife is separated from him, and, they're doing all manner of horrendous, unthinkable abuse. So the whole thing is so screwed up, and all the characters inside are falsely playing God. And what that means is they're pretending that there is not a shred of law they need to follow, because whatever it is that they do in those hotels is the law according to these people. And we've already even contextualized how Lori DeVallo, the woman that thought her beliefs were going to cover her ass, when she was confronted in court with the facts of her choices, not her delusions. So I think all of that, plays part of the context. I understand your anger. The atrocities against all of the children in this cult are deplorable and heinous, along with the others. I believe more can be done now, with more voices being heard and the truth being brought to light. Couldn't agree with you more. And you know what? It would also really help if, people like Nicole that went up to OT3, that had a front row seat at this, could join us in this cause to stop the abuse of children, systemic abuse of children. So yeah, a lot can be done with people coming forward, but we also shouldn't have to be the ones that come forward with this information, because we were the ones that were abused as kids by all these people. While Nicole was doing OT3 and funding her little fund in the hotel and paying for it and going to California and doing all manner of services, some of us were locked up already as kids, being slaves. And although I wasn't a slave to her, I was being pimped out by Debbie Cook to other people that were willing to pay for my price down in Clearwater, Florida. Today, in our family law courts, children are being placed within their abusive parents and even sent to camps with their child to bond with the abuser. Right here in California, children are still not protected from abuse, including murder and child custody cases. Child custody cases, in my opinion, need to be open to the public due to the abuse imposed upon collective children, which of course includes Scientology children. I'm sure. I mean, look, I've never been to child family court. That was not allowed when I was in that hotel. So I wouldn't know how to speak about how those courts work, but I'm sure there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of things that need to be exposed so that the corruption can end. I would like to see Scientology, David Miscavige, Tom Cruise, Marty, Rathbun, and all of the parents that created parental alienation along with the abuse in the cult of Scientology held accountable. I perceive they hold the responsibility and the weight of what happened to their children with the utmost gravity. Well, part of having that gravity is showing the gravity, because if there's crickets being shown, then we're not here to imagine their gravity. We need to see accountability in real physical manifestation, and we need to see some real transparency coming forward from people that have shown. And we're going to be getting into those videos that I have coming up in 2 days. Examples of incredible interviews that were done decades ago with incredible journalists. And, we're going to continue to make our case and going to continue to advocate for those kids. So I really want to thank this commenter, you guys, because yet again, is a true blessing to be able to contextualize your comments and be able to answer back. And we're here to really have this conversation and to open up these conversations that are hard to have, conversations that we wouldn't wish anyone would have to be going through. But, the more we talk about these taboo subjects that everybody's running away from as if they don't exist, part of what this YouTube community has shown me, and part of what I find so valuable about every one of you guys here, is that there is space to breathe and witness our truth. And we're able to come and actually advocate on behalf of the kids in the way that we would have wanted to be advocated for when we were stuck at the hotel. And I think that, the passion that I bring to this is because I need to see that passion, because those kids are still there. Whatever they put me to do in that hotel is being done to yet another kid. As we just saw today, this 14-year-old that was made a supervisor. I was a supervisor as a kid, and it was not good for me to be doing that. So the fact that there's now, this kid that's in my same shoes, leaving almost at the same time that I was trying to leave, and, having a really hard time. So I just want to read you guys, lastly, my response to her, and then we'll wrap it up at that. Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and insight. I do understand that so much of the plight of these minors has been trivialized, and somehow we are always made to believe that no matter how horrific choices our parents were lured into making, we should understand them. And while I understand that they were under the influence, it's just like sometimes when you have addict parents that evade responsibility, hiding under the excuse of adult dysfunction. The fact is, Nicole could be doing what we are doing right now ourselves, advocate on behalf of the kids stuck in those hotels. The parents need to deal with the crooked criminal executives they made deals with. They are the ones that made the deals between themselves, and the minors are the ones who pay the very real price of those deals. I'm going to be releasing a video soon to contextualize the plight of the mother, Nicole, who was against unthinkable corruption of 3 men that criminally conspire against her, including but not limited to wiretapping her. The fact is, Nicole has a lot more power than she realizes. She has access to the best attorneys and press, and yet somehow the adults that funded and endorsed and consented to this systemic institutionalized abuse of minors at scale have not had it in them to truly call out themselves what all of them as adults normalize as a collective, which is hard and unthinkable. But without awareness of the basic facts and the rhetoric of indicted felon L. Ron Hubbard being falsely lauded as a free license for adults that get a free pass while abusing kids in those hotels. At the end of the day, a lot of basic dangers of what kids are being exposed to have been hidden under the guise that no one can criticize these adults, giving themselves the ability to lock up a child, including but not limited to against their will, which is just abominable. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and I have hope and faith. The more the corruption is called out, with naming the wide-ranging criminal conspiracy of enablers, the harder it will be for it to continue unchecked. The fact is, what goes on in these hotels as applies to children is textbook child trafficking. Even family court could surely not side with a parent that will be exposing their kid to torture. I realize the type of changes that we're looking for don't happen overnight, but we're not in a rush, except for those kids who have to suffer until we get this right. We will continue to expose the fact and connect the dots that are not being connected, given that we were forced to have a front row seat at all of this abominable dysfunction, and we were once forced to pretend that we were adults our whole childhood. Nothing changes if nothing changes, but we do have hope. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your questions and your comments and anything. Let's continue having these hard conversations. Let's continue working through everything, and let's continue to work for the day where there will be not a single child inside those hotels. Thank you very much, and I will see you very, very soon.